Hello friends, my name is Matt and welcome to the Joy of Nerding. Today we're going to do something a little different. I have in front of me a MiSTer FPGA console. We're going to be taking this apart and I will explain how it works. And we have another RAM chip to install and I'll explain that in a little bit. So also, I should probably disclose that I'm not alone. This is Tony. He's a kitty. And I would have folded up the blanket to make the couch look neater in the background, except Tony wouldn't have liked that because he's taking a nap, or at least he was until he heard his name. Tony provides a very important role here. If we ever need a CAT scan, we can go to Tony. But let's talk about this. This is a retro games console. You find ROMs and other things to run from various games. You can find them on Internet Archive. I really like the Internet Archive because they are an organization that is doing what I consider to be good works in digital preservation. So first we have to take this apart. This case is 3D printed. It is a modification from MiSTeraddons.com that I found on Thingiverse. I modified it because I liked the overall case design, but it didn't have room for this, which is the USB bridge. Or at least I didn't like it. I don't recall. I will include a link to my Thingiverse page where I add it. The rest of it was fine. This is printed on my old printer, so it's not quite perfect. And I also manually clipped this out because I was using one of those ribbon adapters where there's a micro SD on one end and a full-size SD on the other, because I was messing around with getting it working. In the end, there's so many ROMs from so many platforms that are supported by this that I just went to a full hard drive. This is my 2 terabyte SSD that became surplus to requirements when I updated my desktop to have a 4 terabyte SSD in it, and even still this is full. I ended up having to delete a large file system image for the 486 core, which it turns out I didn't use very much. It's roughly the same speed as a 486SX, and at that point you might as well just use DOSBox. There's no real value in using it on the MiSTer, because you're using an FPGA to emulate a PC. You might as well just run it on a PC. I find it much more useful for things like the Apple II, but really where it shines is consoles. So you may wonder, what is an FPGA? The acronym stands for Field Programmable Gate Array, and simply stated, it's a reconfigurable piece of hardware. So if you think about it, if you are familiar with the snap circuits kits that they sell to children or adults or whatever, there's also various DIY hobby kits where they snap together and you can make circuits. This is threaded into plastic, so it doesn't quite want to pop out nicely. I probably should have used some sort of nut certs here, but I did not. So anyway, if you're familiar with those, when you think about it, you have, it seems to be very stripped. I bet if I got a tip of a knife in there. So anyway, sorry, I interrupted myself. Getting back to the snap circuits, you can follow the instructions and snap together the circuits, and it will make you a device that does something if you follow the directions. This hardware works broadly the same way. You can learn to program it in a few different languages that are then synthesized down to hardware gate configurations. VHDL and Verilog are probably the two most common ones. And really what that does is it allows diligent individuals that go through the tremendously fascinating and difficult task of finding actual circuit boards from old arcade consoles. Consoles are easier to come by because they were much more commonly made. So they go through the old arcade consoles and they actually trace all of the circuits and lay out how those actually worked. They replicate the chips, they replicate all of it, and this can be all replicated on the FPGA. So we're going to get the feet off. I think this is, no, that's too big. Let's see, maybe a hex 3. One question you may have is, why is it pink and purple? And the answer is because I built this at the start of COVID. So I was laid off in December of 2019 because the company shut down the entire New York office. And I found a new job that I started in January of 2020. And my children were in kindergarten at the time. And in March, as you likely are aware, the whole world shut down because it got turned on its head. I had been watching this for a while. I had a job. I had money coming in again. And I said, this pandemic is going to be a little bit more than I think people are prepared for. I think than people are estimating. I didn't think it was ever going to be 2 weeks. I figured it would be 2 months at the outset, perhaps more. And I also figured there would be great supply chain disruptions since many things are made in China. So I built this up. Let's see, I think I had the whole thing built by June. It was, you have to wait for the components to come in because you source them from a few different places. It's actually easier now. But the core board itself became rather expensive, has become rather expensive. But there are places you can search for that will use knockoff boards that are not the original board and work just fine. I have nothing against them, but they are occasionally difficult to get. If you can find them, you can get them for half the cost. So this all slides out. So you can see the enclosure is made up of these front and back plates, which I painted in pink. I'm sorry, I never finished my story. The reason it's pink and purple is because I asked my twin boys what they would like the colors to be. And given that they were in kindergarten, they were interested in bright and interesting colors. So they said, one said pink, one said purple. So I said, okay, pink and purple. So I printed these, the feet and the end panels in pink, and I printed this outer shell in purple. And it's been that way ever since. And I feel no need to change it because why? It looks cute. So you don't see this. This is a carrier board. So going through the board stack, this is the base board, even though it's in the middle. It is the main board that is fabricated as an evaluation board by Intel, and it has the FPGA and a few other things on it, and we'll go over that. This is a daughter board that is just a USB hub. It gives it a nice package. So you get 3 on this side and 3 on this side and 1 on this side. It's actually 8 ports, but this is the hub bridge chip. And I was able to get the USB board and the bridge chip and a power splitter because the power cord that it comes with plugs in here and it just has one. This is a power splitter that splits the power to both. So this is effectively an externally powered USB hub, which is good if you're running lots of controllers or, in my case, USB hard drive. You have to be careful. This is no longer attached, and I don't want to break this. This is a USB-B. This is not really used. You can use it when doing development and programming. This is a USB, another USB-B that is the bridge. Sorry, this is a micro. This is a mini Ethernet jack useful for updating it and such things. On this side, we have another USB-B, which is, I believe, a device jack. I don't think this is used for anything. And this is HDMI. The top board is, in this case, just plastic, because all I wanted to do was mount a fan. There are 2 top boards that you can get. One is called the analog board, one is called the digital board. And as you can imagine, the digital board provides a bunch of digital type outputs. The analog board provides analog type outputs. Now, the analog board is not compatible with the external RAM chips. The analog board is not compatible with this dual RAM setup that we are installing. The digital board is. And the answer is because one of these pins is used by something. Now, one thing I do notice is that if you look at this, I have an issue powering this because I just conveniently picked up a couple headers right there. Now, I think all I need to do is throw 3.3 volts to the fan, but it might be 5. Need to see what it's hooked to. DC 5 volts. Okay, so I need to fit it 5 volts in ground, which looks like I should be able to pick up 5 volts in ground right here. That's a JP6. That's not useful. Okay, so there's some buttons on here. That's the one thing that the digital board gets you that might be useful, is it gets you some buttons. It also gets you digital output, digital audio output, those types of things. I have no real need for any of that. I just use the HDMI. The audio comes out the HDMI, and there you go. The analog is useful if what you're trying to do is connect it to things like CRTs, or old monitors. CRTs, old monitors, things like that. But all of those have a carrier for a fan and power for the fan. I just wanted the fan, and I plugged it in there. I found out on this pinout where the power that I needed was. Now, I think I can pull this off, because I don't think it's actually, I think it's a female adapter to the pin header. But let's get some pliers because my fingers are slipping. And I don't know which way the fan is polarized either. But the good news is it's a fan. You won't blow it up. I would say no. That is connected. All right, so I'm going to have to get an adapter piece to be able to plug it in there. And that's not a big deal. I have some strips of those. But RAM. So when installing these RAM chips, there's 2 rules. One is the chips always face inward. And in fact, there's even a thing that says this side faces outward. So here's my new board. These are different board revisions, but they're the same 2-chip solutions. SDRAM version 2.9, this side faces outward, 2021 Alexei Melnikov. This is all an open source design. This is the older module, version 2.4, copyright 2019 Alexei Melnikov. Now, one thing that the notes said is that the memory test still tends to only test bank 1. So I'm actually going to pull, you know what, I don't want to stress this. Let's take this apart. There, I'm going to put this over here. So I'm going to pull this off gently, because you always want to do this straight. You don't want to bend the pins. And I'm going to put it over here, because this is the second bank. The rules are you put the larger one in the first bank. These are the same size, so that rule does not apply. You also face outward, but I want to be able to test this. So if the notes are still accurate, because bear in mind, these are constantly being updated, so it's possible that the memory test core now tests both. I didn't check, but on the off chance it doesn't, I'm installing this in the first position, which is, I thought it was labeled. Don't recall. But anyway, that's the side one. Now, the other thing is you have to flip this switch when you have 2 installed. This one, SW3. So we'll flip that switch. So this is good to go. But as discussed before, I need to pull. Oh, and of course, I lost my place. I need to pull 5 volts and a ground from somewhere, ideally 2 adjacent pins. So I'm going to pull this back off. This is the old one, right? Yeah. I'm going to pull this back off. And I'm going to pull 5 volts and ground from this, whatever it is, HPS JP5. I'll be right back. I need to get some pins. Okay, friends. So here we have our pins. Now you may say, what strangeness is this? Who has pins like this lying around? This channel is called The Joy of Nerding, so I have many electronics things. I mean, you could just as easily ask the same question of who buys a eval board from DigiKey and builds it up with random instructions he found on the internet. such is the way of things. Now, we need to be sure important things. Hey, Tony, do these look okay to you? I'm going to take sleep as approval. Okay. So there's two things we're going to do. One, these are flush cutters, so you get a nice clean cut. We're going to cut off the two from this strip, just like so. You want to make sure that you leave enough plastic on both sides. We're good there. The other thing we're going to do is these are not grooved pliers. These are flat pliers. I want to push, see if I can get this a little better here. I want to push this. I can't, my fat finger's in the way. So here, let's do this. So these are asymmetric, right? There's a long part and a short part. I'm going to push this up with my flat pliers to make them even. See, now they're about halfway. What I'm trying to do here is to get this so that this has a good bite on both sides. So I'm looking, there's a silk screen here. It says 5-volt and ground. So I'll push that in there. And then my fan will be a smidge tall, but that should be all right. And I can feel that bite. So that should be okay. Should be. Famous last words. A bit tall, but should be all right. So to be clear, the fan blows over this heatsink here, keeps everything cool. I am not certain how I like that. Oh, and it's a 3-wire fan that I pulled out the 2. Is that actually all right? I'm not sure that's actually making contact. I need longer pins. Bump, 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 bump. All right, let's do this. Those seem to be a little prouder than these. So let's actually go back to the original arrangement and see if that will help. Okay, that now feels more solid. And that feels okay. No, it's not great. That is not great. What else do we have here? The J15 ADC Con 1. Let me see if there's a better way to pick that up. I'm going to go get the manual. So the manual is of no help because it's not really a real manual. Let's check on the phone. DE10 Nano. That's the name of the board, DE10 Nano. It's by Terasic. But what's this J15? J15 ADC Con and out. Ideally, we'll find a nice manual that has all of the different pins for everything. From MiSTer, full DE10 board manual. See? Oh, upside down. And you can't really read it anyway because the phone gets washed out. System CD introduction, 20 by 20 GPIO FPGA, ADC header, and a button, and where's the pins? Okay, so it's a Cyclone 5 FPGA. Keys, sensors, switches, those are not useful. Where's my pins? They're still doing control-y things. Buttons, clock signals, Altera Cyclone 5. Shows what I know. Ah, okay, found the expansion header pin out. That's great. Yeah, 5-volt. Assignment of all expansion headers. Those are the GPIO 0, GPIO 1. There's an, oh, these are Arduino expansion headers. So they're Arduino compatible. That's cool. All right, here we go. So the 2x5 header, which is this one, J15, has, this is 5 volts and pin 10 is ground. Let's see if we have something better. I can work with that because you can take this and I can clip it apart into 2 different pins, or even better, I'll just get a extension wire and then zip it up. We can work with that, but that's not what we're gonna see if we can find something a little more elegant here. All right, so these are, it's talking more about the Arduino headers, which I don't care, and that's that same one. So what else? This is not useful because there's no pins in it, and I have to solder some pins in it, and I'm lazy. I think I want this one, pin 1, which is here, and pin 10, which is here, gives me VCC5 and ground. All right, so let's grab a couple of wires. Okay, we got a bag of wires because, doesn't everybody have bags of wires? Bag of wires. Now, the question is how many of these are in the orientation that we need, or we're going to have to make some. And I'm thinking we're going to have to make some. See, because this is, I'd like to keep the colors right. And these are not just extensions. So that's no good. So then the next option is I'm going to do it the old-fashioned and hacky way, which is very carefully, and you do not want to screw this up, otherwise you have to recut it. You take your flush cutters and you can actually cut this connector if you're super careful about it. I've done it a few times. And if not, you have to bust out the old soldering iron. So let's see what we can do. That's almost right. Might be good enough. It didn't cut all the way through, which is, oh, and that was the bit that you didn't want to do. Now the good news is that's ground, and I'm going to have a whole lot of not care on that one. It'll just be the bare crimped connector here. And so let's not cut the wire, and let's not screw up on the 5-volt side, because black is ground, right? So I've got a ground, which goes to the 10, and a 5-volt, which goes to here, and actually can do an even better bit of hackery. So I'm going to take this, and so this is a little bit of black wire. Let's grab a color I don't use very often. Purple. All right, I use black a lot. Don't use purple. All right, so we got our purple. We're going to take this off. These clip in, right? So you can take and pull this up and then pull this out. The crimping is the hard part. I'm going to throw that away. And these should be the same size because it's kind of a standard. So pull up. There's a little tab here that you have to get underneath with something. I actually have the right tools for this, but I'm too lazy to go get them, so I'm going to use pocket knife. Pull, pull, pull. You got to do it gently. See, it's out. We want this. And then you do the same thing with this. Pull, pull. Done. Okay, so now we have this guy, and this is a good one. Now that you have, we can throw that wire away. Now that you have this, you want to push the little tabby in, just a smidgen. You don't want to go too hard or you'll break the plastic. And then you have to get this the right way around, and you slide it back on, and bada bing, look at that. Almost like I knew what I was doing. This is how we meant to do it, right? Right, friends? All right, so pin 10 is ground. Pin 1 is 5 volts. Let's put our RAM chip back on, just like so. This side faces outward, this side faces outward. We flipped switch 3. This goes this way round. And, aha. Oh, that's unfortunate. Never easy, is it? Never easy. Well, what if I tuck this like this and then squish it down like so? Well, those aren't going anywhere, I'll tell you that. But I can't tighten that. So, flush cutters to the rescue. Well, that was more dramatic than I intended for it to be. I was trying to snip it so that the we kept the screw hole, and obviously it should be clear. Failed. But this has no weight to it, and you're not going to see it. So there's a limit as to just how much I care. And it went flinging out into the TV, but TV seems all right, so we'll live. So we're going to put this back. Now, I am only mildly concerned that this won't work when hooked up, but I want to make sure that the fan spins correctly. So I am going to hook up everything back together, test it, and then put it back. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so that's that. And now we need our baseboard. Actually, you know what? We don't even need our baseboard. I just want to make sure that the fan spins. So I need power. I'm pretty certain it's going to boot. But I want to make sure before I do too much that the fan actually spins. So, power. All right. So there's our power, and we plug this in thusly. And there's a power switch over here. Contact. Hey, look it spins at roughly the rate that it should. This is a Noctua fan, so that it's a very, very quiet console. But we're good. Okay. So now let's put it back in the case. Okay, so the way this goes with my modified bottom is these get stacked together, but they're held by these screws. So I was doing it like this. Oh, sorry, but they're held by these screws, which are part of the feet. So you have to put this bottom case on first. So realistically, you have to be super gentle. Oh, this is also the wrong way around. Yeah, see, now there's two connectors that line up. Ha, ha. So you take this and you very carefully plug it in and make sure that it goes in all the way to both of them. Okay. Then this was the bit that I modified, this back plate. And actually, I think I did the front plate too. There were front plates for the two different top boards. And since I didn't use either of the top boards, I just used this blank. And I might have even made that blank. I'm not sure. I needed to cut that out. And also, I didn't like the fact that this wasn't enclosed, right? I wanted this protected. But now in order to do it, you've got to put it on like that. And then this can just slot in to here readily enough. But you have to get the right way around. But then when you do this, you slide this on here, and it goes into this little slot, which, because there's no front on it, it can move slightly. You get this lined up like so that the USB ports are there. And then you put this the right way around so that it lines up with everything here. And then that holds it in place. So I guess it's fair to say you could also assemble it like this, slide it in like that, as long as you hold the two boards together, and then capture it with this, like so. There's a little flex to it, and then it pops over. And you need to make sure to pull it over. Okay. You need to make sure to... Oh, this is backwards, isn't it? It's already hit the bottom, so it needs to go like this. Aha. Aha. Ta-da. Okay, there we go. So make sure you have this oriented correctly. Slide this in. Make sure it's all flat. And then hold this as you flip it over. And then you can put these screws in. which it helps if, and I guess I just let it go so you don't need to hold it all that much. I fail to believe that it's actually being held. And then you do this. Printed on my current printer, this would have looked a little nicer, but again, I'm not particularly interested in reprinting it. You also have to fiddle around a little bit to get the screws to line up with the holes. You kind of got to do it by touch. I remember this being not super easy, and what it's doing is it's threading into the plastic and pushing up the metal, which is not good because it's not going to actually hold the boards. You can kind of see where the standoffs are through the holes if you get the light just right. Once you get the first one, it's easier. You should be able to feel it bite. You'll also be able to feel it push the board up. So this is now in because I actually got it aligned correctly. And you get it mostly tight. And then I do opposite corner. It's nowhere near as complicated as even changing a wheel, let alone doing something like an oil pan. The oil pan that I did recently on my Beetle, it was 20 bolts, and they were not sequential. So it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It kind of radiated out semi-clockwise. It made sense when you did it, but it was 20 bolts, torque to 9 Newton meters, and of course you've got liquid gasket maker, so you spritz the gasket all around it, and then you hand tighten it. This is according to the instructions on the tube of gasket maker. You hand tighten it until it just begins to squish out. Then you wait an hour. Then you go in and torque to spec. So I guess the idea is that it partially cures, and then you squish it just a little bit against the partially cured gasket. So give it a little, you get a little resistance, a little squish. Not exactly sure of the why of it, but seems right. Or it seemed reasonable, so I did it. Plus, they made it, not me, so I assume they know how it works. And anyway, so you do that, and then you wait 24 hours, because if you have any of the liquid stuff, okay, I never waste anything. So these are still good. This is broken plastic. This is broken plastic. This and this are broken plastic. All right, so we should be in good shape. Now, the way this works is there's tabbies on this side and there's tabbies on this side. So you put them around that way. You line it up with the slots, and then you put in the screws, which literally are just screwing into plastic. Do not over torque these. They're just designed to keep the little lid on. They're not, there's nothing to go into. Anyway, what I was saying is, working on the car, if you have the gasket maker and it's still liquid and you put the oil in it, it'll get into the oil. And then if you turn over the car, you'll end up with the liquid gasket getting sucked into the oil pickup tube. I've seen such things on YouTube channels like this Just Rolled In and Mechanical Nightmare. And it's the stuff of horror, because they wonder, well, why didn't the engine get any oil? Why did it seize? And you look and they pull the oil pan off, and the pickup tube is all gummed up with the junk of the gasket maker material. And you know, that'll do it. I mean, it literally looked like chewing gum. Yep, so this is all set up, and I'm going to change around the cameras to be able to grab the signal output, and we'll fire it up and see what we can do. All right, friends, I fixed up my cameras. Tony's still good, and let's fire this up. Well, the box turned on. The keyboard's doing something. Hey, we've got some static. Now, this is actually a widescreen menu system, but I have it scooted over because most of what we're going to be doing is 4x3. But for right now, we're going to be doing the SDRAM test, which is from 2021, and so almost certainly does not support the dual RAM. Dun, 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 and it's running the RAM test. Riveting, isn't it? Let me look up what this actually means. I believe the 146 is the is the frequency, perhaps 146 megahertz, and the green middle is how many successful tests there have been, and then the bottom is how many errors there have been. And this is why I was talking about installing it in the first slot, because I feared that there would be an issue with using this to test the second bank of RAM. Mem test MiSTer. Yes, okay. So the auto mode indicator is the bar going over the top. What's now 4 zeros is the time test passed in minutes. Yes, the 145 is the current memory module frequency in megahertz. The 3 is the memory module size. So it correctly sees this as a 128 megabyte module. That's what a 3 means. The next item is the number of past test cycles, and that cycle is 32 megabytes. And the bottom is the number of failed tests. We can increase the frequency, we can decrease the frequency, we can reset the test. So the auto mode is what it's on now, and it's the maximum frequency for the module being tested. So it's been tested for 1 minute at this point, and it's running at 145 megahertz. And the past test cycles, each cycle is 32 megabytes, and it reads out in hex. So that's why we're 2B, 2C, etc. And so the test is passed if the number of errors is 0. For a quick test, let it run for 10 minutes in auto mode. If you want to be sure, let it run for 1 to 2 hours. The board should pass at least 130 megahertz clock test. Any higher clock will assure the higher quality of the board. So this is at 145, and it only maxes out at 150, which I assume is a known failure case. So there's two things that we're going to do. One, we're going to do a little bit of talking, and two, I'm going to go make lunch because we're going to let this run for a while. With regards to the RAM, I began to talk about a couple of things and cut myself off with regards to both the RAM and the FPGA. So for starters, the considerations with the cores are not a question of memory capacity, because most of these consoles did not have very much RAM to begin with. Being able to buffer more things into RAM is certainly good, but I'm not sure how much it actually makes use of that. But that said, bandwidth is more important. Many of these consoles that are of your 5th generation consoles, your PlayStations, things like that, they were manufactured with not a great memory capacity, but a largely parallel memory capacity. So if you think of it as like a highway, right? If you've got a highway that is 2 lanes, one to each chip, say, you can go put a certain amount of data. If you get a 4-lane highway, then you get twice as many cars being able to go through the more lanes of traffic. That's leads to a greater memory bandwidth, which is not the same as lots of chips. You can think of the memory chips as a parking lot, right? So all of your cars are parked in this parking lot up here, right? And this can be multiple parking lots. This can be huge. This could be a garage. But if you only have 2 lanes in, you can only fill and, assume they're bidirectional, right? You can only fill and drain those so fast. But then if you have 4, you can go twice as fast. And that's what a lot of the 5th generation consoles need, is greater memory bandwidth. Now, there have been some optimizations done, so like the PlayStation core doesn't need it, but I've heard that the Saturn core does, and I've also heard that the Mortal Kombat core does. So hence, picking up the extra RAM chips. Now, with regards to FPGA versus not, this comes down to what benefit does having the actual hardware replicated in hardware as opposed to software do? And the answer is one, which is largely academic, which is that of efficiency. But the other one is that of actual accurate representation of the original game. So if you're going back to the 80s, 90s, arcades specifically, and also to a lesser extent consoles, up until PlayStation, maybe PlayStation 2, they were purpose-built hardware that was not like a generic PC. If you look at an Xbox, you break it down, it largely follows a PC model, which is why games for Windows works on Xbox and PC quite well, and it's just essentially a PC with fixed hardware, and that's what many consoles have become. Back in the day, that wasn't true. They had specific sound chips and, in a lot of cases, parallel processors, and this was especially true of the arcade machines, is that you would have multiple coprocessors, what today we would call multiple cores. And they were not always the same. They were specially wired, different chips, wired in different ways to do different things. And that is difficult to replicate flawlessly via software emulation. This is an issue with Raspberry Pis and the Retro Pis and things like that. So when you replicate it in hardware, you are replicating the original hardware. So it works the same way that it did originally. Now, the caveat to that with the MiSTer is that it is still a modern system, right? It's still outputting HDMI, assuming that you're not using the analog board and outputting analog, and you're also inputting from USB, assuming that you're not using a snack connector that uses an original console type game pack. So you have to do that interpolation. People have measured it, and they've determined that it adds about half a frame of latency. So if you're talking 30 frames per second, half a frame would be 1/60th of a second, which is pretty quick, right? I mean, arbitrarily, you're going to have difficulty determining that. When it really hit home for me was I had played Super Mario Brothers on a Raspberry Pi, and this was an earlier Raspberry Pi. I think it was a Raspberry Pi 2, and I kept falling in the hole, right? I mean, there's certain muscle memory that you have when you pick up a certain controller and you've used the controller and you played it for hours and hours and hours in cognitively formative years. You have this muscle memory of you start episode 1 or world 1, level 1. You start Mario and he goes and he runs, and then you hit B, so you run really fast, and then you hit, is it B? I don't even remember what the labels are. So you run really fast and then you jump, and you hit the button and you jump, but you don't jump, you fall in the hole. And that was very frustrating to me. Mario is a very frustrating game. And I thought maybe I was just getting old. Then I booted up Mario on the MiSTer, and that muscle memory holds. So that Raspberry Pi introduced enough controller input latency that I was missing my jumps. And that was what sold me on the MiSTer. I mean, I'd already bought one by that point because I thought that it was a clever way to do it as opposed to a Raspberry Pi. And ultimately, it was the coolness factor. But what really cemented it to the point that I don't actually use a Raspberry Pi for any emulation. I use them for other things. They're great little embedded computers, but I don't use them for emulation because the MiSTer is just so much better. The other thing that I've never found in any of the RetroPie emulation stations, any of those, is they all seem to be based off this paradigm of I will hook up one controller and map that one controller to all of the consoles. The MiSTer does not work that way. You can hook up many different controllers. You register them with the system by mapping the buttons in the main menu, and then you can map them on a per core basis. So when I'm playing NES games, I use a NES controller. And when I'm playing PlayStation games, I use a PlayStation controller. And when I'm playing Sega games, I use when I'm playing Genesis games, I use a Genesis controller. I have a Sega Saturn controller on order because that core is new. I bought a couple N64 controllers when that one came out. So you're playing the original game with the original controller surfaces and those ergonomics maintained. I really like that. It gives you that great retro feel. But that said, that's not for everyone. And, I've spent probably a couple $100 in USB controllers. You turn on USB fast polling as well. That gives you a more rapid response. Honestly, I can't tell the difference between fast and slow polling because even slow polling is fast enough. The other thing, and I'll try and find it, is somebody actually did a latency measurement where they took an original NES controller and butchered it to put a light. And then they took that same NES controller and hooked it up to a MiSTer. So they hooked it up to a NES and they hooked it up to a MiSTer. And they booted up Mario Brothers. And they, with a high-speed camera, pushed the jump button. So when the jump button contacts were closed, the light would light. And they just held the button. So the camera picked up the light and the camera picked up the TV. Now this was analog TV, not HDMI. And you would watch Mario jump. Same TV, same everything. All they do is change out the MiSTer with an analog board and an original NES. And what they found was, if memory serves, I have to watch the video again, but again, I'll try and find a link to it, is that it was actually slightly faster on the MiSTer, because, like, as in the input latency was slightly faster on the MiSTer because the polling rate was higher. The original NES used something like a USB-ish type protocol to pull the states of all of the buttons on all of the controllers. That was why you could put in the multi-tap and it would bus it out. They weren't using more interrupt lines or anything like that. It was a pulled bus-based system. So that actually works really well with a modern USB paradigm, but you can pull it so much faster that you can get reduced latency there. So if you think about it, broadly speaking, and this is non-scientific, is that if the controller latency is actually less than the original, but you're adding half a frame of latency for HDMI processing, then it's probably ballparking in at about the same. And also these speeds are so fast that they're probably below human perception. Finally, the last thing I like about the MiSTer is that, and I know that some of the retro consoles do this too, this does it on a per core basis, and I find this especially useful with HDMI, is it will do video post-processing and fake the output to look like a CRT. And so there's core specific ones, there's also platform specific ones, there's generic ones. So for stuff like the PlayStation, there wasn't any core specific video post-processing for the PSX. So I set that to be generic 5th generation console, because I was playing those on CRT TVs, and I think that was my first HD TV, but I think that might have been with the PlayStation 2. But I had, the component inputs, so the 3 different inputs plus 5-channel, I think at that point, but I might be wrong. I hooked it up the same way that I hooked up a DVD player. But again, I think that was PlayStation 2. But there's a PS1 core on here. We're going to probably play around with the NES core. I have some ideas. But right now, I'm going to go make lunch, because if we go back to this has been running for 12 minutes. It's fine at 145. So I go make lunch. I come back in an hour. We'll call it good. And then we'll boot up some games and play. Hello, friends. So it has been, as you can see, 64 minutes. And we have 7D3 successes and no failures. So I think we can call this good. We should talk about controls. So the most common, easiest, perhaps most flexible is the keyboard. This is the most epic keyboard ever. It's a generic, Sony keyboard that I got off of Amazon. I've since replaced it with one of the Keychron wireless ones for my desktop, but I like this because it has knockoff cherry, what are these, brown? Blue. It has knockoff cherry blues on it. And that was the reason that I got it. It had a generic shine-through keycap set, but when we allocated it for this purpose, I told the children I'd get them whatever cool video game keycaps they wanted. So they went with a Mario theme, and it's cute, so we leave it. If I had to do it all over again today, I'd probably just get one of those neat 8-bit DO wireless ones, but I have this, and those are $100. So that said, it'll also respond to controllers. When using the keyboard, F12 is the hotkey, with the exception of the AO486 core, because that's a PC and F12 is a real thing. You have to use, I think it's Win key, F12 is a combination, because PCs that old didn't use the Windows key, so it can be used as a meta key. For consoles and all of that, F12 is fine. So to get out of this, we can bring up the menu, press F12, and this kind of gives you an idea of the different options here, right? Up and down moves as you would expect. Enter enters menu things. And then if you go over to here, which you actually don't need to be on that, but left and right move you from, oh, I guess that doesn't actually do that on this core. Other cores do. So we'll do this. We will reboot, go back to the main screen. And so I'll give you a bit of a tour. This is the main menu: arcade, computer, console, other, utility. other has a few different things like a Tamagotchi and, Game of Life. And these are things that tended to not be released in a broad fashion. They were proof of concepts tests, things like that. Utility, input tests, gamepads, where lag is, a bunch of internal utilities. We already went in there and used the SD-RAM test. The real interesting ones are arcade computer and console. So these use the same ROMs as MAME. So if you know where to get MAME ROMs, you can get all of them. Now, there needs to be both a MAME ROM and a MiSTer core to run it. So people are actively working on this. We're going to play through a bunch of these. So when you're on this main screen, you can hit F12, which will get you to here. This allows you to remap keyboard, define joystick buttons, run utility scripts, and ask for help. I am not interested in the keyboard. The define joystick buttons is what you do when you plug in a new controller. You plug in that controller, you hit define joystick buttons, it'll ask you to press a series of buttons and it'll figure it out. So you press left when you're in that one. There's different configuration options, and also these are different configurations. So you can preload separate configurations. I just have it configured up for one, but if you were to say have a HDMI output set up and a CRT output set up, you could do something like that there. And then, yeah, volumes, which are pretty self-explanatory. So escaping out of that, going back to arcade, hitting T, going to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We'll fire that up. Loads the ROM, does a test pattern. This would be exactly what happens when you update the arcade cabinet. And here we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, I'm listening to this on headphones because I can't actually... now, I put on headphones because I don't want to have the sound get picked up twice. But we've got our Ninja Turtles, and here you've got the dip switches. We have this set up so 1 coin gets you 7 lives, and 1 coin gets you 7 plays, and each play is 5 lives. I think that was how we did it. Easy difficulty, have the sounds, service mode, all of that. Video for offsets and things like that. Interesting, but not particularly useful. You can choose different scan doublers, different aspect ratios and scales. Now, that is interesting, but not the only thing. If you look down at the bottom, you see you've got left and right next to exit. So if I press left, that brings us to our common information screen. But if I press right, this gets you to choosing different cores, which gets you back to that core screen. Defining the buttons, and this is where you map a mapped controller to buttons in the game. There's also a separate button key map. Because this game is very sensitive to controller positioning, determining turtle played, and what you end up wanting to do here is everybody gets a controller, and then you hit reset player assignment. And the person who wants to play the first turtle, which I think is Leonardo, hits the button on their controller, a button, any button. They become player 1, and then so on and so forth. So the third player is always Michelangelo, and everybody always wants to be Michelangelo. So you rock, paper, scissors for it, and then pick who you are. Actually, I guess the second one is Michelangelo? Okay, so player 2 is Michelangelo. So video processing we'll get into. You want to make sure to save your settings. That's an important thing. But we're going to hop over to the NES core because I don't have any sticks set up right now. I just have a NES pad connected. So this gives you an idea of the computer cores, by the way. There's NAC Plus, PCs, a couple of different PCs. This is like a 286. I mean, machines that were never released in the United States, but were big in Britain. There's even a few that were released in former Soviet states. I think that's just Galaxija was one that I looked up. I mean, we're talking about things I hadn't heard, but the community that works on this is international. So even things that were released locally and not in North America are there, which is great. So we go to the top. Now consoles. Again, you get some interesting different consoles that you can use. But they're reworking the Genesis core, hence the Genesis and Genesis Old, N64, PlayStation. I don't know what the Pocket Challenge 2 is. The Sega CD. So that gives you a kind of a brief overview of what's there. But that said, NES. So now the screen goes blank, and now we get the menu for the NES. You know, dropping things all over the place here. So we've got our NES core, and this is where I wanted to talk about different things. So these are from, oh, there's two different palettes. One uppercase, one lowercase. That's interesting. I'm curious which one's actually being used. One of the things that occasionally crops up is people seem to forget that case matters, and they are assuming that this is installed on a FAT file system, and that's actually not the case in mine. This is installed on an ext4 file system, which the MiSTer will mount, but you end up with cases where some people put things in all uppercase and some people put things in lowercase. My guess is that the uppercase one is the one that's actually being used, and it's not always consistent per core, and so some fiddling is required, or you just use a case-insensitive file system, and that cures a lot of these issues. But that said, I want to load a game. We have all of these different games, tools, service tests, but let's do a little Gauntlet II first, which is a favorite of mine and my brother's. Now, it actually has save states, so my son and I actually played through Super Mario Brothers 3. And just to give you an idea, this is what palette do you want to use. Custom palettes. I don't actually know what the different palettes do. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can look up. Extra sprites. There's notes actually for each core that you can look up online. Extra sprites, I do know what this one does. Some games actually use more sprites than the hardware allowed, and this cleans that up so that they don't flicker. Again, you've got flipping around for, you know, what do you want to use the keyboard like the Famicom had, which was never in North America. Miscellaneous options, speed. This is where the pause when OSD is open, it'll pause the core execution. Now, this is the video processing, which is one of the things that I was talking about, core specific, and I think this is where the NES core stuff got dropped because I don't see it. There's also display specific and general hardware, arcade, computer, consoles, like that. So if we throw this here, now you see that we have a more pixelated setup, right? It doesn't look like it did before. Let's poke real quickly here. I'm going to reset this, and I'll show you another. Sorry, I want reboot. Now, from the main screen, F9 drops you to a console, which is slightly cut off because it is properly widescreen. So let me slide that over. There. Now you can see it a little better. That was the wrong thing. I assumed I was logged in. I am not. So that is media. Everything's mounted in media. FAT is the main SD card. But I want media USB 0 NES. No, USB 0 games NES. So there's palettes and palettes. Remember we noticed those? So there's a bit of an eeny, meeny, miny, mo here because they're not the same. And do we think it's the all uppercase or the all lowercase? I think, let's try this. Move palettes, star to palettes, and If I screw this up, it's not a big deal because I can always go backwards. In that I can move it back. There's a little cut off on the screen, unfortunately. At least for me. Now, of course, you don't need to do it this way. You could always pull it out and put it into a PC and copy it around using File Manager if you want. But, you know, where's the fun in that? Now that they're all merged together, if I have it wrong, I'll have to move them the other way. Oh, you press F12 to get back to it. I didn't bother to check and see which one was newer, so it's possible that I overwrote some palettes with other palettes. Kind of an it is what it is. Core specific. I still don't see any core specific for that. Yeah, those are from a file. It's interesting, you got the shadow masks and all those things in there. All right, so let's try this. And it's possible that neither of those could work. You can't, from a loaded core, you can't get to the command prompt. You have to reset, and then you can go back here. Palettes. And it could be that neither of those things do anything useful. Back to here, console, NES. Nope. So I'll have to look up why that's not working the way that it's supposed to. Okay, friends, pausing this for a second. I had a problem because I was looking in the wrong place. There's a different audio video menu. From the core highlights page, which I will include a link to, palettes. The NES core has both built-in palettes and the ability to load custom palettes. You may be wondering why the NES core needs palettes. It's just colors, right? Without going into it here, if you want to learn about NES palettes, watch this YouTube video, which I'll link to this article, which will link to that other video, by NES Hacker, and read the pinned comment there as a couple of details were technically inaccurate. Basically, the NES does not have a native palette of colors to work with, as the colors were not output in the typical red, green, and blue values like other game consoles. Implicitly here, they mean by modern game consoles. Encoding RGB values is a more modern thing. Older computers and game consoles used a palette switching system. We'll get into that in a second. So emulators need to come up with palettes that most closely approximate the original viewing experience. This viewing experience would sometimes vary depending on the TV you were watching on, how accurate its color reproduction is, so multiple palette options are made available. This also makes it possible to do fun and ridiculous palettes just for the sake of it, like the Virtual Boy palette made by Retro Show. So back in the day, you couldn't just specify an RGB or CMYK or whatever color value based on the space you're using. I think YUV is another one. But you would have color palettes that were, in a lot of cases, programmable, right? In that you would say, I want this palette, you get 8 colors or 4 colors or 16 colors or whatever, and that's the palette we'll use for this game or this level of the game. And the reason you do that is it saves memory. You only need to specify the RGB values in the palette, and then when you index into the palette, it's just an index. You can do 16 colors with 4 bits, right? You can do 4 colors with 2 bits. So that would allow you to have that many. 256 colors was a big one because that fits nicely into a byte. Then as memory sizes got bigger, as video cards, or as we used to call them, frame buffers, had more memory on them, you could program in more specific colors. If your video memory was large enough, you could have, a 1024 by 768 screen with 16-bit colors. 16-bit colors is 2 bytes. You're using 2 bytes per pixel in addition to location information, but you're just, for your color information, you're using 2 bytes for the color, and then you get 24-bit, and it's 3 bytes. So you could do that on a palette-based system by having that information in a memory space, and then you would index into that. So that said, the way the NES worked is that it had a system color palette, and that's what we're changing here. Rather than it being fully programmable palette, there was a palette of system colors. Other consoles work this way. I believe the Atari 2600 did. I've seen a palette subdirectory. Remember the palette subdirectory I was just playing with? There's one in the Atari 2600 as well, but I was in the wrong spot. And let me flip to our MiSTer screen here. Good the Punisher Capcom game. Console, NES, and this is where I went awry. So I was in this video processing menu, which has a bunch of video processing presets. This is the video processor after the core. So if you think about it, the core outputs analog, and then the analog output gets changed to HDMI. That's what this post-processing is for. I think that the analog output raw does not actually run through this. Going back, if we go to the actual core, there's this audio and video option here, and that has this palette. Now, of course, you're not going to see anything because it's just a gray screen, but let's load something that everybody should know. NES R Super Mario Bros. Okay, so going into this audio and video, the palette is Kintrix. That's smooth. It's subtly changed. Wavebeam, subtly changed again. Sony CXA, much more brighter, more color saturation. This is perhaps a little desaturated. Custom, and this is where the custom palette comes in, is as we load this, you can see this is the palettes directory that I was messing around with, trying to find out where it's used. It's used here. So we have all of these that are part of the NES core. So like this is NES Classic, which is very close to, there was a subdirectory here, Nintendo. There's the NES Classic Edition. I see no difference on this one. There's, Virtual Console, NES, VS. I poked around with a bunch of these, but there's tons of them. Animal Crossing, all of that. I looked at, was it MiSTer? No. Was it Miscellaneous? No. There was one, Console and PC. There was one that I found that I really liked. There's a bunch of unsaturated ones. Say unsaturated final. That gets that little desaturated one. But where was it? Oh, it was at the top. NTSC. This is what I remember Super Mario Brothers looking when I was playing it on NTSC. Now that said, this NES Classic is also really close. So much so that after 30 years of memory, I don't remember. Nostalgia is maybe sort of a little bit in between. Real is, this is apparently what it was really supposed to look like, at least based on the name Real. RGB, that looks garish and overly, it's just wrong in some way. So I'm setting it to NTSC. I'm on the fence here. Wait, do I do NTSC or do NES Classic? I'm going to do NES Classic because the reds are a little bit more, the world is a little bit more brown, which is kind of how I remember it being. So that is the custom palette that I'm going to use, and that explains that bit of confusion. Now, the one thing we have to do is, in order to make sure that this persists, we need to go to Save Settings. So I've saved it. There we go. That's the palette confusion remedy. The other thing that I think is worth mentioning is I said that there is a half a frame of latency which I figured out was, I made the mention of, is that at 30 frames per second, it's 1/60th of a frame. Doing the math, by the way, that ends up being a 17 millisecond latency, which is not horrible for controller inputs. But that said, if you go and watch the video by NES Hacker that I just mentioned was linked off the article, he refers to it as being 60 frames per second. True, but misleading. Because what do you define as a frame, and are we both right? And the answer is yes. Looking at the NTSC format from Wikipedia, the term NTSC, this is the broad NTSC, has been used to refer to digital formats with a number of active lines between 480 and 487 having 30 or 29.97 frames per second. Under the history section, first paragraph, the standard recommended a frame rate of 30 frames or images. So we're actually talking complete images, which is where I get my 30 frames per second, consisting of 2 interlaced fields per frame at 262.5 lines per field and 60 fields per second. And that's where NES Hacker's talking about 60 frames per second. Because if you think about it, the way that it works, you draw half of your lines and then you draw the other half of your lines. This gives you a full picture, and you do this 30 times per second. But if you're drawing half of your lines, you're actually refreshing the screen 60 times per second. And that's where you get the 60 frames per second versus 30 frames per second. We're saying the same thing. I'm talking about a whole frame. Now, I don't know when they measured the latency and came up with the figure of half a frame of latency. I don't know whether that was one field draw or whether it was one full frame. The worst case scenario would be mine of 16 milliseconds, in that you're losing half a frame because it takes a full field to do it. And that's how much latency you're introducing in your rendering. That said, if it's half a field, that's even better because it's 1/120th of a second or 8 milliseconds. Now, the other thought that I had was, why is it 60 hertz? I bet it has to do with electricity. And the answer is yes, it does. Because looking at the technical details, the NTSC field refresh frequency in the black and white system originally exactly matched the nominal 60 hertz frequency of alternating current power used in the United States. And this is where NTSC is 60 hertz and PAL is 50 hertz, because in Europe, where they were using PAL, they were using 220 at 50 hertz electricity. Matching the field refresh rate to the power source avoided intermodulation, also called beating, which produces rolling bars on the screen. Sometimes you'd see that if it wasn't quite synced up, you'd see these rolling bars. You could also see it if you were videoing a screen, which was interesting. Synchronization of the refresh rate to the power incidentally helped kinescope cameras record early live television broadcasts, as it was very simple to synchronize a film camera to capture one frame of video on each film frame by using the alternating current frequency to set the speed of the synchronous AC motor drive camera. So if you think about that, you've got the waveform of your alternating current is essentially a time synchronous pulse that the power companies have increasingly, as technology has gotten better, kept very tight. But realistically, it was driven by how the generators would actually generate the signal and how they would generate the power. This, as mentioned, is how the NTSC field refresh frequency, I can talk, worked in the original black and white system. When color was added to the system, however, the refresh frequency shifted slightly downward by 0.1% to approximately 59.94 hertz to eliminate stationary dot patterns in the difference frequency between the sound and color carriers, blah, 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 blah. We don't need to go into that further. So what I do find interesting about this is that if you really think about it, this is kind of the apocryphal story of why railroad tracks are as wide as they are. Why our television is 60 hertz, or at least it used to be before digital TVs. I think now it doesn't really matter. We've decoupled the refresh rates of the display from the incoming signal, and I don't even know how much that matters because it's all digital. There's an analog carrier in there somewhere, but that gets stripped out long before it actually makes it to the display. Point being, up until, we'll say, 2010, when the digital conversion really kicked over, the TV was driven by technology 60 years old because it all had to be backwards compatible with the analog carrier. And then they broke that backwards compatibility. Well, that was pain and anguish enough. But if you think about trains, that's even worse because you'd have to rip up and re-gauge all those rail lines, which we did in the American South after the Civil War, because the North and the South had different rail gauge lines depending on whether they developed it domestically or imported it from the English. So then the question is, why are English rails spaced the way that they are? I have no idea why American rails are spaced the way that they are, but the story that I heard is it all dates back to the Romans. So the English developed the first locomotives and therefore the first rails. And they had to make carriages for these rails. Well, you go to an existing carriage maker and have them make the carriages for these rails. And they have wheel spacing from carriages that go down streets, right? They use the same jigs, except they put on different wheels, and now the wheels can go on the rails, which are now set to that spacing. So the spacing of the rails is determined by the spacing of the wheels, which is determined by the spacing of the jigs. Why are the jigs set that wide? Because they were for carriages. Why were they for carriages? Because people would use horses to get around. And that dates back to the Romans, who occupied England and had carriages to get around. So why is the Roman gauge that wide? Well, the answer is it was the natural width of two back ends of horses. So you have a carriage that is pulled by a team that is 2 horses wide by however many horses are in front of it. And you generally wouldn't go 3 wide, although you could, and you've seen it in things like Spartacus and like that. But when you're talking about a carriage that has the bars that go out and attach to the team, those bars are that wide, the wheels are that wide, and it's all just so, because fundamentally, the reason, going back to the trains, the reason train cars are as wide as they are because of the width of horses' behinds. So if you ever wanted to know why society is organized the way that it is, just look at a horse's behind and you will get a clue. With that, we will return back to where I paused it, and hopefully you have found this little interlude interesting, and it explains some of the confusion here. But I figured it out because I couldn't let it lie. Thank you, friends. Back to the show. So we're going to load a video processing, load preset, core specific. We'll go with SNES with scan lines. So this is a different shadow mask, no shadow mask, and it's changing the sharpness a little bit. This actually should look about right, because when I was playing, we used the same TV for the NES and the SNES. So let's fire up some Gauntlet II. So see, I hit a button, so now the map on player 1, A is A, B is B, select and start are what they should be. So A is magic, B is throw, is attack. Those are the generators. Get a key, could go through the exit, but who wants to do that? Now I think let's reset the game, because I thought, yes, if you use the D-pad, you can be different characters. See, I'm the red character because I'm player 1, but I could be an elf, a Valkyrie, or a wizard in addition to the basic warrior. Let's be an elf. The elf is fast, but not tanky. There's a limit to the number of sprites you can have on the screen. Note that your health counts down over time. That's true to the arcade game. That opens things. There's food. You can only have 1 missile in flight at the same time. Now, I'm going to show you something else. The core pauses, because we already talked about that. Cheats. This is huge. 5 super shots, can always use potion, don't take damage from monsters, infinite energy, infinite health. All of these, invincibility and treasure, no one's ever it. This is a popular one with my kids. They don't like the so-and-so is it, and then the monsters all go after that person, and then you touch somebody else, and then the monsters all go after that person. What do we got? Stronger poison, repulsiveness, skip intro screens, walk through walls, take less damage from monsters, one of the ways to really just play through this if you really just want to play. Infinite health. We'll just turn on infinite health and you'll see what'll happen. Do you see my health is now 2047 and is not going down? So on the one hand, it's a big cheat, but if what you want to do is just run through the game and play it and have a good time, that's fine. So they've emulated both raw ROM twiddling and also the way that Game Genie did it. And you can see that it says, raw versus Genie. So again, pretty full featured. Exit to 6. Level 6. Stupid lobbers. You can shoot through the corners. You can move diagonally by holding. That got something open. You can hold between two things and you'll end up going diagonally. So if you kind of hold down both up and left, you'll go diagonally up and left, and that includes shooting because you shoot where you're aiming. When you warp, you can push the D-pad in a certain direction, and you'll end up in the right spot relative to where you warped, right? So like I wanted to be down a little bit, and so when I warped, I pushed down. I pressed over. Now, which one you go through is a different thing. But I wanted to get this food. What's this? I don't know what that is. Sometimes it tells you, like, elf now has reflective shot. I want to get back over to the one on the right. But not there. There we go. These are, you can usually shoot these, see? Oh, I see. I have that power-up was lots of shooting. So it goes through the one guy and then through other things. But it only lasts for so long. The dong means something opened up. And it'll do that based on time, not only based on something that you hit, something that you walk on. I have a key. I don't have any potions. You can shoot potions or you can use potions. My brother and I used to play this for hours. My sons and I have played this for hours. That's the exit. So how do we get to that one? I guess just like that. Yeah, I shouldn't be tanking as an elf. That's kind of dumb, but cheats. Yo. All right. So that wasn't what I was thinking of. I was thinking of it's wintertime, so let's see what Kevin McAllister's up to. Oh, I forgot to slide this back over. I'm sorry about that. That's what I get for not looking at my monitor. Alright, I have no idea how to play this game. Okay. So I can move left and right. There's a kid. Oh no. Oh no, what? I don't know what just happened. Is that it? I got caught by somebody? Am I getting caught by the... Is that my family, or is that... That's it, okay. I think that was it. That was as far as I got. Okay. Wow. Alright, so I gotta go up here. I gotta hide from them, I assume. I don't have any... Nope. Can I pick something up? Okay, I pick stuff up. I don't know what that gets me. Oh, okay. So those must be traps. And they're faster than me. And then B drops it. Okay, got it. Oh, can I go up those stairs? Oh, I thought just walking forward to get me up those stairs. Alright. Okay. So I got a higher score. Alright, let's try this again. Oh, that's a thing. This is a thing. The things are all at roughly eye level. Christmas ornaments, got it. Can I pick up this? Nope. Okay, is there anything over here? Nope, nope. Oh, there's the iron. Oh, I guess I can't pick up... There, can I get the iron now? Nope, can't get the iron now. Ah! Okay. Wow, I do not remember this game at all. I don't think I ever played this game. So, that's my excuse anyway. So I guess those are Harry and Marv. I need the cars. Got the cars. Oh, can I go up these stairs? Okay, I can go up these stairs. Can't pick that up. Not sure why. Can I get the spider? No. Maybe there's a limit as to how many things I can get. Okay, so I can get out to my tree house. I'm in my tree house. I can go down. I got nails. I got the heater thing. There's the heater thing. But I can't pick it up. Not sure why I can't pick it up. Controls on this are a little sketchy. I can't go down. I can't go over. Not sure why I can't go over. It's a pseudo 3D. So this is in front of my house, okay? And I can go in here. Can't go up the door. Maybe I can pick up some of these things later. Like, can I pick up the iron now? No. I can go out. I don't know how I get down those stairs. Oh, I can pick up both of those things. Okay. No, okay. I guess you have to beat him. I bet you have to beat him off for like 20 minutes. So that's a long game. But alright, we'll take that. It's not a stairs down, apparently. Okay. Ah! It boxed me in. I'm gonna bet this was not tremendously well reviewed. Just putting that out there. Harry and Marv. Oh, now I can pick up the iron. Okay. Oh, how come he can go down that? Okay, I guess if you're at the right place, you can go down. You can go do this in reverse, I guess. Yeah, that works. There's no pause either. Like not in the original game. I think you can only hold so many things. I think that's the deal. I would have thought up would have gone through doors. Doesn't seem to. Yeah, I think you can only hit so many things. Why can't I? Oh, that's new. You can climb up the drain pipe. Ah, I forgot to move. Stupid. Oh, forgot the ornaments. Thought you had me there for a second, folks. Apparently you can't. Okay. I wonder if... Oh. I don't know why that... That's interesting. I don't know why it went to that score screen. Maybe I pressed and held B for too long? I also don't know if you can run over your own traps. That would be an interesting thing to know. But I don't really want to find out. Okay, shimmy down the drain pipe. I want to go into the basement. He's down in the basement. You can get into the basement from the house. Let's see if we can manage that. Oh, wait, is it? Ah! I swear I pushed over. I swear. I guess that's everywhere you put traps. What? I thought this was how to get in the basement. Ah! So I assume he gets back up after a certain amount of time. Maybe not. Maybe the way to win is to just capture them both on screen. I'm gonna just drop that there, because maybe... Yeah, there you go, see? We knew he was coming. I like the little Tweety birds. That's a cute effect. There we go. Okay, you have to be right at the center of that little... the two little dots. That's a thing. That's a thing. There's a bunch of stuff down here. Bucket. You get creepy basement music, too. So realistically, they can't get us down here, except coming from the left, or the right. At least I think so. So if I just wait for them to come, if the point is to run out the clock, now here they can get us from both directions, which is a problem. Like if I can get up these stairs. Is he gonna come after me? No, he doesn't know I'm here. Ah! Stuck. Okay, well I got into the basement. There's a bunch of stuff down there. That's good. Now here we're boxed in, and that's bad. Oh, but we can get, if we can get the right thing down here. Alright, I'm just gonna run by him. It's tricky to get that right. I'll grant that. Honestly, I think if you just keep running laps, you'll get it. But realistically, if I put the things there, now I can run over my own stuff. That's good. So drop a trap there, go down here, and you can hear that they got caught by something. Drop one here, pick this up, drop one there because I see him on the stairs. Alright, I think I got it. I don't know why it just went to that screen, but we'll let it be. I can hear him hitting stuff. Oh, there he is. And there's the other guy. Oh! They do get back up after a while. Alright. Yeah, why? Alright. Yeah, why stop? Oh, come on, go, 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 go. I want to go up. Ah! I think they respawn quicker if you get off the screen. And you can only carry 3 things. Got it. Fair enough. I think I can manage that. Ah! Too fast. What do they have for cheats? Oh, there's no cheats for this game. Interesting. Alright. I don't know, the more I figure it out, the worse I seem to be doing, and I'm not sure why that is. Oh, this is a good point. They can only come from that direction. So we could try to wait. But the problem with that is that it'll box us in. Bunch of stuff in the basement. Fine, up the stairs, up the stairs. Go, 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 Kevin. The controls change abruptly, which is really interesting. In that the position where you are changes really abruptly. I'm just gonna place stuff, let him trip over it. Because you can hear him hitting it. How do I get in? You move that this way and then you go this way? Oh geez, that's goofy. Maybe at the tops of stairways makes a lot of sense. That's the basement. This is the main floor. I got nothing left here. He's coming up out of the basement. Okay. I hear somebody hitting all kinds of traps. But I'm out of traps right now. And they're faster than me, which is a problem. Okay, there's him. I don't know which one's Harry, which one's Marv. I want to get down in the basement again, because there's a bunch of stuff I haven't picked up. Come on, where's the down? Gotta be a down somewhere. Alright, I can't find it. Finding the down is hard. I think there was some stuff up top, too. Come on. Bump, 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 bump. Oh, there he is. No, 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 no. He's gonna get me. Ah. Alright, well, I think that's enough of Home Alone. What's my score, though? 16 minutes, 21,000 points. I mean, I put traps all over the place. Alright, so that was Home Alone 1. What about Home Alone 2? 20th Century Fox, Lost in New York, yada yada. What do we got? Press start? Okay. Who's this? Oh, this is Tim Curry. This is the concierge of the Plaza Hotel. I'm alerting the other hotels around town. There's a little vagabond, thought they were going to go vagrant there, using stolen credit cards. His name, Kevin McAllister. 5 feet of trouble. Blonde hair, blue eyes. Calling for Lefty Louie. That you, Louie? This is Harry. What? Yeah. The simper Marv is still with me. What? Yeah, I know. Look it. Never mind about that. I'm calling the guys from the old gang. Me and Marv need some help to bag a wise Alec punk running around. Really? You need a whole gang to catch McAllister? I mean, I suppose it didn't go so well for you the first time. Listen up. Here's what we do. Oh. Okay. This is more of a normal platformer, I think. Dodge the suitcase. Oh, pick up the cookies. Okay, so you gotta dodge stuff and pick up cookies. Got it. Got it. Got it. Oh, pie. I want some pie. What's the weird lady doing? Oh, she hit me. Can I go in here? Up works. Gift shop. Okay. What are you throwing? Am I supposed to pick those up? Nope, not supposed to pick those up. Okay. Am I supposed to jump on your head? Nope. Okay, but I can pick that up. I can pick up the pie. I can jump over that guy. Oh. Can I get the key? Wait, the key hurts me? So that's the bellboy. I want to get the cookies. Can I get the cookie? Can I jump on the suitcase? No, everything hurts you in this game. I want the pie. I want the cookies. Oh, I can drop stuff. Okay, so I drop the pearls. Oh. Start works. Oh, selects between things. I got a gun with nothing. I've got no pearls. Okay, but that at least gives you an idea what I can do with B. I don't know what the pie is for. What does the pie give me? I don't know what pie gives me. It doesn't appear to be able to be used. I hit the lady. Gifts, I don't want the gift shop. I can pick up more pearls. And pie. Jump over that dude. Yeah, he throws stuff out. I thought the key would be useful, but I guess not. Oh, those are sucky darts for my dart gun. Oh. Can I shoot the lady? Oh, no, those are the pearls. I don't know what those do. Oh, they're tax or something? News. Can I go into the news area? Oh, and that dude wrings my neck. And sends me back to start. Oh, and he wrings my neck. Sends me back to start. Game over. Alright, cookies. More cookies. How do I get those cookies? I can't double jump. Oh, and I got hit by the thing. Another piece of pie. I don't know. Oh! I missed and got sucked up by the thing. There's a lot of insta-death on this guy. Can I jump over? No, he rings. I think that guy is supposed to press you forward every time. I don't know what cookies do. Oh, and you get hurt by being on the plant? Oh, that's how you get those cookies. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Maybe I could use the pearls on the lady or something? Mistimed that jump. Didn't jump at all on that one. Alright. Let's try this again. Cookies. Other cookies. And now, crazy possessed suitcase, and pie, and cookies. And jump on the couch and avoid the cleaner, and pie. I don't know how to get rid of that lady, so she just got me. Another pie. Jump over him. Miss this guy. You'd think the key would be useful there. Oh, hey, look at that. But... oh. Huh. Now, will that, like, trip her? No, not at all. And why is there random pie falling out? I don't want to go in the news place. Oh, look, he's coming after me. Florist. And what are these, mops? What is this? What is this, Fantasia? You run, and then, like, stuff pops out, but you can't get it unless you know it's coming. Oh, you could see the guy in the corner of the doorway. I have no idea. I don't know how to use... like, I could drop those, and I bet they like, mess that dude up. Yeah, see? They knock him out. Okay. Can I go up here? No, that doesn't actually go up. I wish I know what those... oh, you can slide! Maybe that's how you get rid of the lady. Get out from under the lady. Or avoid the lady. Like, you slide under the lady to avoid her. Pie. Cookies. Oh, except she just punched me in the head. Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to do that. Why does the key hurt you? Like, keys are for opening things. Why does the key hurt you? Oh. But I bet that's how you get under the mops. Like that. Oh, except I missed that one. That was wrong. That should have been a duck, not a jump. Oh. I can't go up there. I can't... Can I go down? Nope. Just all the suitcases come out. How do I... What do I do now? I feel like I needed that key. But you can't go back and get it. It almost feels like you need to get the key to... Do I have a key now? No, the key disappeared. So he throws keys at you, but you can't use the keys to open anything. Alright. What do we got? What do they have for cheats here? Every 4 cookies become almost invincible. Every 4 cookies counts as 12. Extra like... Oh, that's not pie, that's pizza. Infinite cookies. I wish I knew what I could do with all of it. Infinite plunger gun. Jump in midair. No keys needed. Re-enter elevator to go to kitchen. Alright, I'm going to have a look at like how this actually works, because this might actually be a game worth playing. I just have no idea how to play. Alright, I have a little bit more time. I'm going to show you one. I want to play more of this, but this was one that my brother and I loved. I don't know if this is an arcade board or not, but... So yeah, this is called Karnov. So you're this circus man. You pick up the little pellets, and it lets you spit more fire. See? So you pick up the ladder and K's, and these all are special ability things. So like you can use it. See, you can put the ladder up and climb up the ladder. Now that was kind of a waste. Now, and I don't remember how to... I think you can put the ladder... Oh, there you go. You just had to go down the ladder. Oh, I screwed up. I used the shoe and I didn't mean to. I don't remember how to change things. That means my shoes are... Oh, and there's the rock dude. But now you can put up the ladder here, and you can climb up here and pick this up. And then you can go down. And then you reclaim the ladder. Oh, I see. It happens just by moving. You wanted to get all of these... the K's are like coins are in Mario. Oh, hey, there's a K up there. So you want to collect the K's, and you want to, yeah, you want to collect the K's, and you want to collect all the power-ups, and you want to use your ladder to collect the power-ups. So you can tell the difference between games I've actually played before and games I haven't, because I kind of know how these play. Got some wings. Oh, that's right, fish my eye. Yeah, see, beat the boss. Yeah, for some reason you get transported around by lightning, which is kind of awesome. Oh. Yeah, you turn blue the first time you get hit. And then I think the second time you get hit, you die. Yeah, that's it. And then the next time, you have all your items, but you're back to one spitty ball thing, which is Trixie. Forget what the bombs do. I wonder if the bombs would help me here. I think you just lay the bomb down. Oh, that was useless. Yeah, bomb just blows up. Oh, you know what? I'm dumb. Continue. Here's why I'm dumb. I'll show you why. Oh, I lost my ladder. Alright, hang on. Reset. Alright, I got this. So some of this is a work smarter, not harder thing. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, well, ladder. Except that, you know, I fell down. Don't fall down. That was intentional. Oh, dragon. I guess I ran through here too quickly the first time. I feel like I missed one of the pills. Oh, and of course it's time limited. You get this annoying donut when you're getting low on. There's a jump here. Yeah. Sometimes it's wings, sometimes it's not. And then we're good. Alright, and now I'll show you what I mean about smarter, not harder. Alright, see, so this is my brilliant plan here. That was the wrong button. But if I do this, and I put up the ladder... Oh. See, look at that. Oh, and then he hits me and I die. And now I've lost my ladder again. At least I think so. Yep, no more ladder. So much for my brilliant idea. I think I want to go down here. I don't know what's down here. Oh, hey, blue pill. Fat lot of good that did me. I should have just gone and jumped down. And I think the way this works is you continue either at the beginning of the level or maybe there's a mid-level, but I don't know. Oh, and this is not a hold the button sort of thing. It's literally you gotta hit the B button that fast. You got the wings. Oh, that's right. I don't remember what that guy did. Oh, right, yeah, he does a thing. He comes apart and... Jumpy circus acrobat, guys. I didn't say it wasn't a weird game. Oh, and you got Bad Breath guy. Bets. Oh, and this is like a kitty cat or something. Or a cow. I'm dead. Okay, friends. That is enough for today. Thank you for joining me in messing around with the MiSTer. For our recommendation, unlike normal when I recommend something while painting that you could listen to or potentially watch, with video games, they're going to absorb all your attention. So I'm recommending an actual physical book, A History of Video Games in 64 Objects. This is, I believe, a small press book. It says it's from Day Street, an imprint of William Morrow. I'll read the back. 64 objects tell the history of the revolutionary impact of video games over the past 50 years, from Pong to Pokemon Go, from mainframe computers to mobile phones. Travel through the history of video games as it's never before been presented. Discover the groundbreaking, rare, and historical materials that have exerted influence on the video game industry and popular culture, as shared by expert curators and scholars from the World Video Game Hall of Fame at the Strong National Museum of Play. Drawing on the most comprehensive collection of video game artifacts in the world, A History of Video Games in 64 Objects chronicles the evolution of video games from design documents to prototype games to modern visual masterpieces. Each captivating entry is paired with detailed images, some of never-before-seen materials, offering a new perspective on the games that shaped the field's development and ultimately changed how we play. These fascinating histories illuminate 5 decades of games and the controversies they have caused. Inside, you'll find a wide range of intriguing topics, including the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons and the rise of role-playing games, the Oregon Trail and the growth of educational gaming, the Atari 2600 and the birth of the console revolution, a World of Warcraft server blade that hosted the massively multiplayer online role-playing game, the prototypes for the interactive toys brought to life in the smash hit Skylanders, story and game design drafts from groundbreaking developers like Roberta Williams, Will Wright, and Ed Logg, and so much more. A visual panorama combining unforgettable stories with in-depth cultural history, A History of Video Games in 64 Objects is a treasure trove for gamers and pop culture fans. Let the gaming begin. I strongly recommend getting the physical book because there's some nice pictures in it, and that would make it easier to visualize what's being discussed. For example, I will find the server blade they talked about. Virtual Boy's in here, Myst, Pokemon, The Sims, Grand Theft Auto, Halo, the Wiimote, Call of Duty, Minecraft, Skylanders, right here. So this is one of the server blades from World of Warcraft. Now, I've seen this in person because I bought the book in person at the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. It is a trip that I strongly recommend people take. I can't express enough how much of a joy the place is. Plan to spend the weekend there and bring some money for arcade. The plays there are still 25 cents and they have tokens. So, you know, credit card, 20, whatever. You get a pile of tokens and go play. There are multiple arcades. There's also games scattered throughout the building. There's a pinball arcade. There's a video game arcade. There's the World Video Game Hall of Fame. There's a bunch of artifacts of play of all types, dollhouses and toys and action figures and all of that. It's a lot of fun. We go there a few times a year. The last time we went, and I'll put some pictures up, it was a Star Wars weekend. And I want to say they were also doing a Dungeons and Dragons weekend, but oh, that's what it was. The rotating exhibit was a Dungeons and Dragons weekend. They have an exhibit that's there for a few months and they put up and take down different things. There's been Doc McStuffins, there's been miniature golf. There was one that was all devoted to space and they pulled out their original Star Wars cabinet, like one of the sit-in cabinets, things like that. This was Dungeons and Dragons, and they had a lot of Dungeons and Dragons artifacts, miniatures, and books, and other role-playing games too. They had first editions of Cyberpunk, and oh, I'm trying to remember, but I took pictures, and I'll try and put the pictures here. Also, a funny story is that it was also Star Wars weekend. They had the Rochester Lego users group there, and so they had built a bunch of Star Wars things, and there were all of the cosplayers. What was it? There's a Mandalorian themed one that I don't remember what it was, and of course members of the 501st. And we ended up staying in the same hotel as some of them. There's a hotel just across the street. There's also a really good cafe called Nerdvana, which I recommend. Anyway, the members of the 501st, some of them are actually down from Toronto, and they had come down that weekend because Taylor Swift was in town in Toronto. So 100,000 Swifties or whatever had descended on the city. And so it's like, well, we can hang around and fight all of these tourists coming to see Taylor Swift, or we can go be tourists ourselves and go down to the Museum of Play and walk around in our Stormtrooper armor. The costumes were great. There were a lot of full-size droids that they were doing a very good job of surreptitiously controlling. I could see a lot of people walking around with hoodies behind the droid, and you've got your hoodie with your hands in your pockets, and I'm sure they're driving via, say, a PlayStation controller or something like that. My wife was saying she saw some lady that had palmed a Roku remote, and if you think about it, you can do front, back, left, right, and then OK to make the droid do stuff. Really, really clever setups that they had there. If I'd have thought about it, maybe I would have interviewed people behind the scenes for the channel, but I didn't think about it until it was too late. I was kind of just there as a tourist, but they did a wonderful job, and I'm sure that behind the scenes as to how they did it would have been really interesting, because I mean, how much more nerdy do you get than people that do their own droids and make them life-size R2-D2 that has all of the cool R2-D2 mechanisms and features, and the head spins around and it makes noise and interacts with the kids, and it was quite lovely. And you know, there's kids going around in strollers that know R2-D2 and they can come up and meet them. And what amazes me about it is that this is not like Disney World, where these people are paid performers that are cast members of Disney and they have the backing of Disney behind them and all of that. These are just fellow nerds, part of our tribe, like you and me, who have an itch and do stuff and scratch it and build things and do it for the love of doing it, and get to go out and show off their costumes and make people smile. And that just makes me happy. That's it for today. Until next time, stay nerdy.